Hello, everybody. I want to talk about influence. Whether as a manager or as a leader, no matter what industry you're in, the ability to influence somebody else to do something that you want them to do may lie at the heart of success in just about any type of position that you hold. For instance, in a family, you certainly want to influence those who are younger than you, even those at the same age or similar age, to do and act and behave in a certain manner. In the organization, if you have a leadership role, you want to influence that organization to follow what you believe is the most wise course of action or the most wise decision-making process that you would follow. If you're a supervisor, you want people who work for you and with you to have similar traits than you. And those traits, you believe, will lead to success within your group. And if the group is successful, you as a supervisor are successful. So influence really is a key trait, not just within an organization, but within a person as well. There's few of us that don't want to have some power. And power is a good word when we talk about influence. Some power to influence other people. We only have to turn on Fox News or CNN or any other channel and listen to the broadcasters try to convey an issue and create a forum where at the end of that program, you're walking away saying, I believe in what they're saying. In fact, that's what television and radio and so much of media is about, isn't it? The ability to convince you in what they're trying to sell. Google and Facebook make tens of billions of dollars trying to convince you to buy the products that they put in front of you when you're viewing their websites. That's influence. How can we, as an individual, how can we as an organization actually influence other people? That's the focus of the next couple minutes. And we'll start with this. You often have to change yourself first. Change yourself first and then change the world. There's a great story that talks about this Benedictine monk who believed some years ago that he wanted to change the world. So he tried to change the world, and he figured out he couldn't change the world, so he tried to change his country. And he figured out he couldn't change the country, so he tried to change his town. He figured out he couldn't change his town, so he just tried to change his family. He couldn't change his family, so he started by changing himself. Once he changed himself, he realized, well, I can change my family. And then my family can change our town. Our town can change our country. And indeed, our country can change the world. So if we change ourselves first, we have a greater chance, a greater opportunity to change those dominoes, those subsequent actions that come in after that. How do we change ourselves? Focus on that in a few slides. But first we want to talk about what is influence? What is this word that we're using, influence, and even power? What does that mean? Well, influence is very easily defined as the ability to get somebody to do something that you feel is important. There's two words that come into play when we use the word influence, power and authority. They're actually different. Would we rather have power or authority? Would we rather have both? In the perfect world, we'd rather have both. But if you choose one versus the other, which would you choose? Think about it for a second. I would choose power. Let's define both and see what you would choose. Authority is the right to influence other people. So authority is your parents. The authority is your supervisor. They have a right to tell you what to do. Power is the ability to influence someone. So you don't have a right to influence somebody if you have power, but you have some ability. Individuals who have power are often seen as maybe political figures or religious leaders. They're often people that you respect. And just by virtue of them saying something to you, they can influence you to act and behave and think in a certain manner. That's what we know as power. That's where that statement comes from. They have power over you. They have the ability to get you to behave, act, and think in a way that's consistent with the way they want you to behave. Our goal is positive change. Our goal is to positively influence somebody. to take a course of action, to assume a belief that we think is good for human nature. If we can influence people to be good, as we've just learned, that means that we have to be good ourselves. If we can influence people to do good, to be good, to act good, to behave good, then we have a great chance of making a better world. That's really the fundamental focus of our presentation. To start with good people that do good things. I've often said when we raise our kids that I want them to be good people who do great things. Be good and do something great. That's what I try to influence our kids to do. Hopefully they do. We'll see what happens. But let's talk about influence and in some ways how we gain influence. First, I wanted to read this to you. It's a lot of words and I typically don't read a lot, but hopefully you find it constructive. No matter the obstacle, regardless of the challenge, and irrespective of the sacrifice, we must stand for something, work for something, and fight for something that is noble, decent, and honorable. Always remembering that right always triumphs over wrong, kindness always triumphs over hatred, and goodness always triumphs over evil. Remember when I talked about being a good person? If you're a good person, somebody who does decent, noble, and honorable actions that result from similar ambitions, if you are that type of good person, then the influence that you have over other people may, just may, make them as good as you are. That is our goal, to create a world of good people who do great things. So, there's many different formulas, processes, strategies, theories about how we can influence other people. In other words, if you wanted to learn how to influence people to do what you want them to do, a quick Google search will give you a number of strategies that you can follow. Here's one by Jessie Stoner. She talks about character, connectedness, social intelligence. It's a pretty good one. There's another one that talks about character as well. There's another one that talks about how you have to act in a certain manner. I've come up with my own, which I call the keys to influence. There's 5. I often think that people can't remember more than 6, so I try to keep my bullets to 4 to 6. This one happens to have 5. If I was to train an individual, and in this case we're talking about a leader, a manager, and certainly a person, to influence others in a good way, in a good manner that results in good outcomes, there's 5 strategies that I would focus on, and we'll talk about each in the coming slides. But in general, it is to have something somebody wants, have unbelievable social skills, be respected, be likable, and be inspiring. That's how we can influence other people. So let's start with having something someone wants. It's a valuable resource, as the slide indicates. Influence, the ability to influence, comes from having something that somebody else wants. And they often follow you because you give them what they want. It could be a goal, ambition, a dream, a vision. Many political figures that you see have this inspiring ability to attract people to them. We often call that charisma. It's nearly impossible to influence if you don't have something that somebody else wants, or if you can't give somebody something that they want. So what we have has to be viewed as valuable. It must be scarce. In other words, they can't get it from somewhere else. And the more influential that aspect, trait, or characteristic you have, the more in demand that is, the greater influence you have over other people. So, first is to have something somebody wants. We're drawn in life to people who have this trait or this characteristic. It could be a physical aspect as well, too. It could be the money that they have, so you're attracted to somebody. There's many aspects of a person and personality that we're attracted to. And so hopefully you have that trait, characteristic, or that physical aspect that draws people to you. There's a great commercial about Michael Jordan, great basketball player. And there was a commercial that says, "Be like Mike." And Nike was trying to teach other people that you should be just like Mike. Mike is somebody you should want to be. And Michael Jordan, just like others, Beyonce comes to mind too, they have such a great following because people want to be like them. It gives them a great influence. 2 is to have unbelievable social skills. Unbelievable social skills. Influence today is often determined by how well you can use Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat, TikTok, just about any type of social media today. There's individuals who really don't have much fame or fortune, but they have a unique ability to create a profile or persona online. And that persona allows them to attract people to their sites. I have X number of YouTube recordings. I have X number of YouTube followers. And the more followers you have, the more you get paid by people who want to take advantage of your ability to connect with an audience, in fact, that you often have never met. So if you have these social skills, it gives you great influence over the audience that you've created. Unbelievable social skills. The third way that we can garner this level of influence in our world is to be respected. People listen to and they're influenced by those they respect. And I'm often asked, well, what traits should a person have that would result in a person having great respect within their environment? Those change, of course, but I think there are some commonalities amongst peoples that are seen as a very respectful trait or characteristic. One is a hard worker. I've often said, and in fact, I'll back up and say my parents have always said that if you work hard, you'll always be successful. You may not be successful at what you want to be successful at, but you will be successful. So if you're in a profession or an occupation that you don't like, but you work hard, you have a great chance of being successful at it. You may not like it, but you're going to be successful at it. So working hard may be a fundamental trait that will maintain the employment of just about anybody. The ability to put in the effort and the dedication to accomplish your objective. Another aspect that results in people being respected is talent. The sports hero, the movie star, the artist, the keynote presenter, somebody who can convey their thoughts, who creates this persona that people want to know more. I remember Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, who was a former First Lady of the United States. She was married to John F. Kennedy. And her dad said, always hold something back. It'll make people want to know what it is. And so she was very reserved. She gave very few interviews throughout her life. She became that person that people wanted to find out more about. The Queen of England never gave an interview. And she never gave an interview because they wanted to keep the mystique of her position. They thought if they allowed too much daylight into royal circles, the end result would be that people wouldn't want to know more about them because they knew everything that there was to know about that person. Be smarter and more educated, more awarded. The people that we respect often have these accomplishments that are unique. I was watching a documentary on Rita Moreno, and she's the first Latina to have ever won a Grammy and a Tony, an Emmy, and an Oscar, known as an EGOT. And when they were interviewing her and she was showing all of her awards, she was conveying that I have had a laudable career. And there's much to respect when someone can show that these are the awards, the consequences of my efforts. And it showcases to others that she should be respected because she does know how to act in movies. She does know how to sing by virtue of winning a Grammy. And then hold an esteemed position. Somebody who in some way has a position that has some influence over an area, a discipline, an industry, a country. by virtue of their position, they have some respect. So the ability to gain respect is the third aspect that we look at that can gain influence. So thus far, we've talked about, in order to gain influence in your world, you got to have something that somebody wants. You've got to have some social abilities, social skills. People follow people that they know and see. That's where social skills come from. Third is to be respected. And the fourth is to be likable. I've told my kids when they go for interviews that, in my opinion, the most important skill or ability when you're interviewing for a job is to be likable. In fact, if you were to look at my desk in front of me, I have this sign that says kind of a mini credo for our family, which is work hard, be likable, and never give up. And I've always said if you can work hard, be kind, and never give up, you really can't accomplish just about anything that you want. That's how important likable is. Likable is, and it comes from kindness, likable is one of the most important aspects of an individual. You get so many do-overs in life if people like you, if you're a kind person. Oh, they didn't mean it. Oh, I've never heard them say anything like that before. And then you get a second or a third chance. In fact, there's individuals I've worked with who aren't very good employees, but they stay around and hang around because people like having those individuals in the workplace. Those individuals make others feel good. Maybe it's their natural kindness. Whatever it is that they do, people like them. And people are drawn to people they like. There's a great story of this person who went to a particular church, and their family says, you go to this church on the weekends. We aren't sure why you go to that church because you don't even belong to that church. And they said, well, my friend goes to that church. I go to see my friend. So just by liking a friend, you're drawn to follow that friend to go and spend time with them at a church that you don't even belong to. And the church is a name and a word for any other circumstances. It could be a restaurant or a sporting event. But you go to places that you like. There's also the great example of Cheers. Cheers is a show based in Boston. And every time, it was a television show, very successful. And every time one of the characters walked into the restaurant, his name was Norm, everybody would say, Norm. And they'd kind of yell it a bit. It was like a welcome. Here's Norm. And he would always say something witty in return. But if you listen to the theme song and pull it up for Cheers, it talks about where everybody knows your name. It's a likable place. People go there because they want to be liked. They're influenced to go into Cheers, though there's other places to go, because it makes them feel like they're liked. If we can make people feel that they're liked by being a likable person ourselves, we can have great sway in how they act and believe. So, likable. Likable comes from many aspects. I mentioned about kindness. It's somebody who's unbelievably friendly and kind. Kind is a word that I use quite a bit. The second is they always tell the truth and they do what's right. And that makes a person likable. On the screen that you see in front of you at the bottom, it says, I like Ike. And General Eisenhower ran for president in the 1950s. He was elected twice. And his campaign button said, I like Ike. And Ike was a nickname for Eisenhower. They called him Ike. And a person running for president felt that the word like was so important that he actually had campaign buttons created that say, I like Ike. And last but not least is to be inspiring. Convince others you know what you're doing. You're convincing others that you know that not only that you care about them, but that where you're going to take them, where they are going to follow you, is a place that they need to go, that they must go. It's going to change their job. It's going to change their family. It's going to change their town. In fact, it's going to better the world. Be inspiring It's very similar to that book, The Little Engine That Could, which says that you know you can, you know you can, you know you can. It's not just determination, but it's perseverance as well. It's saying, keep fighting, you'll make it. Keep fighting, you'll make it. And that doesn't mean that the road is easy, that the road isn't filled with peril. It is. And when you go along the train track, you often can fall off. It's like being on a beam that an athlete, a gymnast, would run across. No matter how much you practice, at some point you still may fall off. But when you do fall off, you want somebody to say, get right back up on that horse. Get right back up on that beam. Because next time you can make it. Ernest Fitzgerald said one time, the happy are those who remember that no one has everything, but everyone has something. It's one of my favorite sayings to use. The happy are those who remember that no one has everything, but everyone has something. Michael J. Fox had an amazing television career. And really at the height of his fame, he found out that he had Parkinson's disease. For the last 30 years, 20 or 30 years, he spent raising money, over $1 billion, to fight against the Parkinson's disease, to find a cure for Parkinson's. He was recently awarded an Academy Award, a special Academy Award, for everything he's done in the fight against the Parkinson's disease. Very similar to others who have been awarded an Academy Award based on what they've done in the motion picture field in terms of fighting diseases. Elizabeth Taylor had an award because of the work that she's done as well. And the Muscular Dystrophy Association, it's hard not to admire the billions of dollars raised by the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and that was awarded a special Academy Award as well. And so those individuals who inspired that, yes, it is a terrible disease, yes, it is a terrible circumstance, but we can fight against it. Those inspiring people, they attract people to follow them along this quest. And even if the quest may not be immediately resolved, or a drug or some amazing scientific discovery may not eliminate the consequences of that disease, like muscular dystrophy, the inspired people give others hope that at someday, someplace, somewhere, a cure will be found. And we're along the track to ensure that the processes are put into place so that that cure can be found. Inspiring. And that's what we hope to do in our life. Our hope is that we can gather these skills and utilize them for good to make the world a better place. We can ensure that we enhance the traits and characteristics we have so that people see that we do have something that they want. We can hone and expand our social skills to broaden the net so that more people are aware of the ambitions that we have to seek goodness. We can try as best we can to be a respected individual, to be seen as somebody who has merit in the processes that they're following, that should be respected because the books that they write, the articles that they present, the speeches that they give are all directed towards doing something that is good in a situation that may be terribly bad for a lot of people. We respect those individuals. And we also like individuals that we follow. So we learn to become a very likable and kind person, somebody who tells the truth and does what's right. We hope all along the way, as we address those four aspects, that we hope at the end we can be somewhat inspiring of what we do. Danny Thomas is one of my favorite people, And he created the St. Jude's Children's Research Center because he wanted to help people who couldn't afford health care, especially for their children. In fact, the tagline is that no children should be denied health care simply because they don't have insurance. And so we hope maybe at the end of our lives, we're able to say that in the dawn of our life, we strove to make a living. But in the twilight of our life, in the later years, we really strove to make a difference. That's what I hope we do. So I hope all of us do. Because we do, as I mentioned earlier, we want to be somebody good and do something great. And what is somebody good? Somebody who's kind, tells the truth, does what's right, and always looks for the good along the road of life. And if we're somebody good, then our ambitions should be to do something great. Take that goodness and do something great with it. What would be great? Save the environment, house the homeless, clean the oceans, address social injustices, feed the hungry, tutor the young, maybe assist the elderly. There's no limits to what we can do if we're a person of basic decency and we possess uncommon ambition to do something great. That, everybody, enjoy the day. I look forward to our continued discussions.